In addition to the pre-built animation functions that jQuery gives you, there's a basic animate function that you can use to create custom animation for a wide variety of properties on page elements. So to do that, you simply call the animate function, and there's a couple of different versions you can see there in the table. One takes a series of parameters, and those are the properties on an element that you want to animate. There's a duration parameter, and that's the number of milliseconds that the animation should take. The easing parameter is the type of easing function to use, and there's only two built in. There are plugins that do more, but right now jQuery has linear or swing built in. And finally, there's a callback option, and the callback is the function that will be called when the animation is completed, and that, of course, is optional. There's also another more complex animate function here, and it's the same idea. These are the properties you want to animate, and the options are a set of options set in an object notation style for the animation that you want to have happen. And there's also a stop function, and the stop function basically stops all the running animations on all of the specified elements. So you'd have some jQuery selector that would produce a result set, and then you'd call stop on all those guys to stop them from animating if they are. So let's take a look at how to use the animate function. I'm going to jump over to the code, and we can see how it works. And you'll see that there's a div on the page with some text in it. So let's try some custom animations. The first animation is when we click the grow right, you'll see that the side of the div grows out to the right. If we click the big text, you'll see that the text animates up in size. And if we click move div, you'll see that it animates over to the right. So let's refresh. And let's see if it works in Firefox as well. So I'm going to bring this up in Firefox. There it is. And so I'm going to click move. I'm going to click big text. And I'm going to click grow right. And you can see that it worked. Let's refresh. Now let's go over to the code and see how we accomplish this. Okay, I'm going to bring this up in my editor. Down here are the buttons that control the animation. Here is the style sheet on the div, and that's the div that we're animating right there. And up here, you can see that what's happening is we're calling various versions of the animate function with parameters that we want to have animated. So the way this works is I get a reference to the element or elements that I want to animate, and in this case it's just one, but again I could have a result set that comes back. And I call the animate function with an object. And inside the object I list the properties that I want to have animated. So in this example for the width, I'm setting a width property on the object for the parameters I'm passing in, and I want that to happen over the course of 1 second. So in this case, you can see I've got the different animate functions controlling different properties. So this is the one for the width, this is the one that animates the font size, this is the one that animates the left side property, which is what makes it move over. However, since we are specifying things as objects, I can have multiple of these animations appear all at once. So let's copy this function here. And let's make a new button called multiple. So that's going to be its ID. I'm going to go down here. I'm just going to copy this guy and name it multiple. And we'll label the button everything. So when the everything button gets clicked, let's animate everything. So we'll animate the width. We'll copy that and we'll paste that in here. And let's animate the font size. And we'll copy that. And we'll paste that in here. And you notice also that I'm passing in a parameter for the easing function. I'm passing in swing, which is kind of like a smoothing function that makes the animation appear a bit more natural, but I could also pass in linear if I wanted to for this parameter, and we'll see what effect that has. So now, instead of animating just one thing at a time, I've got a parameters object that will animate all of those properties over the course of 1 second. Okay, so let's save, and let's go back out to the browser. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh. So now when I refresh, you see that the everything button is there. So now when I click the everything button, you can see that everything happens all at once. The font size animated up, the div got bigger, and it moved over to the right-hand side because I animated the left. Let's switch over to Firefox. So I'm going to refresh here as well. And there's my everything button. And when I click on everything, you can see that everything happens all at the same time. You can see that using the animate function, you can create some pretty complex animations just by specifying the parameters that you want to animate from and animate to. So the default, let's go back to the code really quick. When I specify these parameters like width 500, this is going to be the ending result. This is what the property will look like when the animation is complete. And the starting value is whatever the style sheet sets it to. So you can see here that the width starts out at 250 and it's going to end up at 500. And similarly for the rest of the properties as well. So that's how you use the animate function. We're at the point now where we can build a practical example.